Hello. Ooh, my mic is off. Ooh, hello. There we go. There we go. Okay. Let's see if we are doing what I think we're doing. I think we should be live on Twitch, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook, maybe? We can check Twitch quickly. We are live on Twitch. We can check YouTube quickly. Let's see. Does look like we're live on YouTube. And just make sure. Yeah. Okay, cool. And then Instagram and Facebook. So let's try Instagram. Okay, cool. And I can even see the little chat. It looks like the frame rate is a little weird, but other than that, it looks pretty good. And then let's see about Facebook. Oh my goodness, the Facebook looks terrible. Okay, but how do I see a chat for Facebook? That one I don't know. That one I do not know. But at least we have Instagram. If I refresh this, does it show? No? So that's the only tricky thing, is that even though I'm technically live on Instagram, I don't see it on the app, strangely. Not sure what to do about that. Okay. And then hopefully, if anyone is chatting on Facebook, I'm sorry, I don't know where the chat is. I guess I can search. Oh, comments. It's right here. How do I... There's no like pop out feature for that? That's a bummer. That's okay. Okay, let's do... Can I hide it? Yes, perfect. Okay, good. So I am multi-streaming to 4 different locations. I'm multi-streaming to Twitch, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. We'll see how that goes. Okay. I'm gonna put those next to each other. I think we're good. I think we're good. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to tell the universe that I'm live. It still doesn't make sense to me that I can't see that I'm live on Instagram. That should be showing up as live. I don't know why it's not. It shows live, but it doesn't show it. Yeah, and it's the correct account and everything. I don't know. No sé. We'll see if anything pops up. Okay, so then I want to write a few people. Hold on. I guess I can do it here. And for the stream, I think I'm going to stop Wallpaper Engine because it just eats up too much, whatever it's called. I'm trying to think what would be the best link to send them to. it would be easier to send them to Twitch or if it would be easier to send them to YouTube. Probably YouTube, right? I'm gonna say YouTube. It is nice that I can see that I'm live on YouTube. Okay. Where's the share option? I guess it would be easier for me to do it like this. Let's go here. And let's click here. And let's see if that works. I did end up going live today. If you'd like to stop by and chat parental units. Boop. Okay. And then I guess I can go here. I'm going to be talking about themes that I'm noticing in my work live if anyone would like to stop by. If anyone would like to chat about them. And then boom. We'll go with that. And then I guess I could write okay. All right. Hi, Delmau. Good to see ya. How you doing? Thanks for stopping by. I'm dealing with too many things at once. I am looking to I'm currently multi-streaming on 4 different platforms. So I'm streaming on Twitch, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. I know Twitch and YouTube are working. Instagram and Facebook, not so sure about. Not so sure about. I don't know if those ones are working. When I look on Instagram, it doesn't look like I'm live. I don't know how to fix that. I don't know how to fix that one. But I'm doing it all from my computer, which is nifty because it means that I don't have to like be streaming from my phone. It says that I'm live on those platforms, and I can see the display of me being live on my computer. Hey, it's my dad. My dad is over on YouTube chat. Good morning. That is insane. Let me know if I'm logged on. You are logged on. I see you. I see you. Hello. How are you? Have you checked your bandwidth? Might need to update the settings. Is the stream really choppy? I haven't looked at what stream looks like. No, it's fine. Okay, good. Glad to hear it. Okay. So hi everybody. How are y'all? What's going on? Scale of 1 to 10, 1 being horrible day, 10 being great day. How are y'all's days? If that's part of the issue or anything, I see you. Yeah. I don't know. Cause it does here, let me show you what I'm looking at. I have to make sure I'm not like an 8. That's pretty good. 8 is pretty good. 8 is like my baseline. I like to live at an 8. And then, you know, depending on what's going on, it'll fluctuate, it'll go up or down. So let me show you what I'm looking at. So over on my small monitor, this is what I'm looking at. So this is the Instagram live stream. So it says live, says 0 viewers. This is theoretically the chat. But when I go, normally when you're live on Instagram, when you go to Instagram, like it'll show up at the top of the story, like where the stories show up, and I don't see it. So I'm not sure if I'm live. If not, like that's fine. This is plenty. This will still work. But it'd be cool to figure it out. It'd be cool to figure it out. Anyway, so hello everybody. It's been a little while. Basically, the main reason that I haven't streamed in a little while is because I needed to figure out something to do when there were not people here. Because when y'all are here, we can, chat for days about all sorts of cool mental healthy stuff. But when people are not here, I needed something to do. And it used to be that I would just like make my shorts for the week. But I'm making shorts in a new way now that is not me sitting at my computer. And so I needed a new way, I needed a new thing to occupy my time, and that would be, interesting and all that good stuff. And it took me a little while to figure out what I wanted that to be. So basically what I've decided on, you know what, hold on, I just realized something. Let me check something real quick, hold on. You. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, I was checking my heckin' title on Twitch, but it's fine. What's on your right template? What do you mean? What's on my right template? My right template. Oh, what's on your right temple? Oh, this. Oh, I see. So I have a massive, terrifying, horrific pimple right here, and I didn't want to subject y'all to it. So this is a little pimple patch to cover it up, so that y'all didn't have to be exposed to the horror that is this pimple. It is truly terrifying. Truly terrifying. Okay, so what I ended up deciding on in terms of, what I wanted to do with y'all today, and I think what I want to do, Godzilla's it exactly. It is terrifying. Yo, warm chamomile tea bag to draw out the pimple. That is fast. I never that is not something I ever would have thought of, but that's a cool home remedy. Sounds wild, but I swear it works. Milk and sugar also works. Like, how do you keep the milk and sugar on the pimple? Do you like stir up like a little paste and then you rub it on the pimple? Is that how it works? So what I decided to do is that I would take themes that I was seeing across sessions, and I would talk about those themes, because I figure what I have come to experience in working with a lot of people is that even though we are all beautiful, unique, wonderful human beings, we all kind of suffer with the same stuff. It's all common, whether you are, super poor, super rich, black, white, male, female, whatever. The themes are very similar. And so I figure if, certain people that I'm working with are struggling with these things, that and working through these things, it might be helpful to hear about what it is that they're struggling with, how they're working through it, and we can just sort of talk about that and see what's going on. The warm milk and sugar on bread also works for styes. You use gauze. Oh, okay. So you put warm milk and sugar on gauze, and then you put that on your pimple. That makes sense. Okay. All right. So yeah, so today we're going to talk about 5 different themes that I saw throughout the week. And those 5 themes are shame, which is always a huge one, but specifically around shame, like people doing fine, but feeling like they're not, feeling like they need to be doing more. The second one is using a to-do list almost like a scoreboard, and we'll talk more about what I mean by that once we get into it. The third one is moving goalposts, which I guess is kind of similar to it's unique. So the third one is moving goalposts. The fourth one is real things becoming intolerable. And the last one is the things that you have been denying are the missing piece that you have needed. Those are the 5 themes. Hello, I see somebody on Instagram. That is awesome. I don't know if you're still here, but it's awesome that you can see the stream. Thank you for typing in chat. I really appreciate that. If you're new here, by the way, I don't know if you're still here, but if you're new here, my name's Sean. I'm a burnout coach. I help people recover from burnout. And today we're going to be talking about themes within the Reclamation, which is my program that helps people to recover from burnout. So these are real things that I see with people. So let's talk about these different themes. So the first one is shame, and specifically people doing fine, but feeling like they aren't. So the way that I see this manifest for a lot of people that I work with is that my camera automatically turns off every half hour and I have to restart it. Okay, so the way that I see this manifest for a lot of people that I work with is you have dragged yourself out of hell. So you were struggling with something like, depression, anxiety, loneliness, sadness, like you were in a really, really bad spot, and you actually managed to get yourself out of that spot, which is amazing. It is incredibly difficult for you to get yourself out of that spot. And then what happens is 2 things. One, you start to feel like you should be doing more because it's like, well, I feel like I'm just doing the bare minimum. But what is missing from that equation is the 1,000-pound boulder that you had to carry around on your back to get where you are. It's like if you were running a track and field race and one person was just, running a track and field race normally, and the other person was trying to run it with a giant boulder on their back. It would be a completely unfair race, and to expect the person with the 1,000-pound boulder on their back to run at the same rate as the person who didn't have a 1,000-pound boulder would just be bonkers. And so it is the process that helps people to, like, how do I phrase this? The process that helps people to not beat themselves up. If you want to stop beating yourself up for feeling like you're not doing enough, feeling like you're not doing good enough, we have to acknowledge that 1,000-pound boulder. It's like, oh yeah, of course it is really hard for me to do stuff because I have this 1,000-pound boulder on my back. And the great thing is, when you start to acknowledge that 1,000-pound boulder, then you can also start to acknowledge, you can start to place the anger or the blame where it belongs. So when you start to feel like, when you start to recognize, oh yeah, this 1,000-pound boulder was placed on my back, and understand where that boulder came from, then you can be like, man, I'm really mad at this boulder, which is where it belongs, instead of where it's been going this whole time, which is at you, right? It's like, what's wrong with me? Why can't I do better? Blah, 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 blah. All those sorts of words. So some of the ways that I hear this manifest that maybe will sound familiar to you are somebody feels like shit, and because they have dragged themselves out of hell, and there is such terror about going back there, when they feel like shit, they feel like they are a piece of shit. It's the classic thing of like, you fail and therefore you think you are a failure. But there is a huge distinction between what you do and who you are. And when that distinction gets melded, when it starts to become your identity, it causes all sorts of issues. So it's very, very important that as you go through your day-to-day, you notice when those two things are getting melded. You say to yourself, oh, interesting, I failed at something and I am feeling like a failure. If you can notice that, it's going to help to like separate it out and weaken the mechanism essentially. I don't like this rock. It's pissing me off. Exactly, Idel now. You get it. You get it so good. You get it so good. Let me see. What I'm looking through my notes to see what else. Yeah. So a lot of times what'll happen in this sort of, shame, doing fine, but feeling like you need to do more is that, and I mean, this is similar to the identity piece that I just talked about, but a lot of times your worth will get tied to your sense of achievement. So you will feel like you need to achieve in order to be worth something, which then when we flip that around, what that results in is that if you are not achieving something, you feel worthless. And so it becomes this hamster wheel. It becomes a trap where you have to constantly be running or else you feel like a failure. And it's just a torturous way to live life. Okay. So the next. Oh yeah, okay. So another theme that started to show up that was really, really interesting was this idea that it's too late. It's too late for me. I think that this is a common fear that people have. So I hear about this, like you're thinking about going back to college and you're a certain age, whatever age it is. Because the reason I don't specify a specific age is because I hear it happen at all sorts of different ages. I've heard it from 30-year-olds, I've heard it from 40-year-olds, I've heard it, like on and on and on. So it actually doesn't matter what age you are. This fear often comes up in general, which is that you will feel like it is too late for you. It's like, oh, I can't go back to college because I'm too old now, or I can't build my career because it's too late for me. I can't get a relationship because I'm too old. It's too late for me. And the irony is that actually makes you do less, which then results in you not achieving the things that you want to achieve, which then becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy. You're like, see, it was too late for me. And what I see work amazingly with people is when they dedicate themselves to action. So the idea being that when you take action and then iterate based on that action, there's a Japanese concept called kaizen, which is the concept of incremental improvement. That as you do things and you make small little changes over and over and over again, that results in outsized returns. Let me see. Oh, okay. And then another piece of this whole shame, things are actually fine but you feel like they're not, are your past. So for a lot of people, you have responsibility placed on you that is not appropriate for where you are in your life. So a good example of this is, let's say that you were raised in a single parent household. So only your mom raised you or only your dad raised you. And because of that, you grew up having to kind of take care of yourself. You kind of had to be your own parent. That is not appropriate. It's funny because I hate the word appropriate, but that is not appropriate for a kid. A kid should not have to take care of themselves. That's not how the system is designed. We have parents for a reason. But it happens. And so then what ends up happening is that because that is just not something that a kid can do healthily, you figure out all sorts of coping mechanisms in order to try to figure that out. So one example is like you figure out to lie to your parents about what it is that you are achieving, because otherwise you feel like you're letting your parent down and you don't want that to happen. So you do your best to try to make sure that they're happy, even if you have to lie to them to appease what it is that they need. And so then when you get older and are, like working a job that there's a lot of pressure from upper management for you to perform, you being able to say like, hey, I made this mistake, I'll correct it, feels impossible. And so you feel like you're not doing good enough. You feel like an imposter because it is too scary to take accountability, because that younger version, it was literally unsafe for that younger version of you to do so. And so by starting to recognize that and recognize the difference in the situation, that your mind is making, it's pattern making, it is making an association between the past and now that is no longer accurate. The association that your mind is making is not accurate. But we have to acknowledge that first. We have to say, oh yeah, it makes perfect sense that you would be really afraid here, because when we were younger, this is how we had to protect ourselves. And then you can start to separate those things out. Then there's room for, and this situation is different because of X, Y, and Z. So many of these cycles are self-reinforcing negative spirals down. Yep, 100%. 100%. I think that's part of what is so hard, is that it is so easy for things to become self-fulfilling prophecies. Okay. Let me look. Oh, and then I think that the last thing is just sort of like a little celebration of this theme, which is that a lot of times what I see is that as you go through these processes that we're talking about, what starts to happen is that you start to be able to work them out on your own. So they'll still come up. It's not like they disappear and you feel happy forever. Emotions naturally fluctuate. That is in their nature. But what does happen is that you'll come in to talk with me, and you'll talk with me about a situation that happened over the week, and really you will have already sorted it all out, and it will take me reflecting back to you that you kind of already figured it all out, to realize what a good job that you did, which is like the next level. Then, you start to sort it all out for yourself, but then recognizing that you sorted it all out for yourself is like the next level of play of like, oh yeah, I did do a good job, and being able to acknowledge that and feel proud of yourself for that. That's the next level. So that's the first theme. That is, feeling like you're not doing enough even though you're doing great. The second theme is the to-do list, or the wrong scoreboard. So my analogy that I like to use for this is, imagine that there's an older brother and a younger brother, okay? And the younger brother has a $20 bill, okay? And the older brother has 5 $1 bills. And so the older brother, who's a little bit of a jerk, comes up and says, hey, look, I have these 5 bills here. You have that 1 bill. I'll give you all 5 of these bills for that 1 bill. And the younger brother is like, damn, that's a good deal. I'll make that trade all day. I'm getting 5 for 1. Hell yeah. But he doesn't realize that the bill that he has is 20 times more worth than the bills that his brother has. So what this is illustrating is that we do this all the time in our day-to-day lives. We will look at our to-do list and we'll be like, well, I can check all these things off, you know? These things are really like quick, easy things to check off. So I'll check those off so that I can like move forward and do what I want to do. But the problem is that the ROI on those things is garbage. They like drain you. They don't make you feel good. You don't feel any sense of fulfillment from doing those things. Whereas the, you know, one thing on your to-do list that might take a lot longer, might be a lot bigger of a task, would actually end up bringing you way more fulfillment. And my philosophy around burnout in general, as a burnout coach, is that burnout is all about ROI. It is all about what you get back for what you are putting in. Foxy, welcome on in. Good to see you. We're talking about themes, so just themes that I've seen throughout the week working with people. We're on our second theme. The theme, you're looking so goth today. Thank you. The theme that we're talking about right now is that is measuring things incorrectly, essentially. Does everyone listening know ROI? No, that's why I explained it is what you get back for what you put in. Stands for return on investment. So you put $5 in and get $20 out. That is a good return on investment. So what was I saying? Burnout coach, return. So an example of this. So let's say that there are two doctors that are both working the same 24-hour shift. And one doctor works, in the surgery room, literally saving people's lives. Okay? For the 24 hours, he's doing a surgery that is literally saving people's lives. The other doctor is spending all day talking to insurance companies, begging the insurance companies to give his patients life-saving medication. Which doctor do you think is going to feel more fulfilled at the end of their shift? And which doctor do you think is going to burn out? Correct. The correct answer is the doctor who is saving lives is going to feel fulfilled, and the doctor who is arguing with insurance is going to feel burned out, in all likelihood, right? And so the same thing is true in our day-to-day lives, that when we prioritize the things that actually give us good return, the things that actually make us feel fulfilled, not only do we burn out less, but then it actually makes it easier to do the things that have lower return, because you get a boost. It's like you spend 5 energy to get 10, and then you have 5 extra energy to go and, do whatever it is that you want. You put in 5 months and get ghosted, that's a bad ROI? Yes, precisely, Foxy, precisely. Now, what's interesting about that is that a lot of people struggle with that relationship fallacy. They think, oh, I've been in this relationship. You think I've been in this relationship for 2 years. If I leave now, it's such a waste. And so they will stay in horrible situations in order to try to salvage any little bit of return that they can get. And it just keeps going down and down and down and down. Now, what's interesting about life, the idea of life basically being gambling, is that to a certain extent, yes, because there are so many variables that we cannot control. There's a whole lot of chance to life, depending on your spiritual beliefs and stuff like that. But they're just, whether you believe that life is chance or fate or whatever, there is so much that we cannot control. So in that regard, yes, that life is gambling. But the part that is not gambling is the part of intentionally measuring what works and what doesn't for you. That if you look at, hey, every time I make this bet, it drains my energy bank. Whereas, 90% of the time when I make this bet, it fills my energy bank. And prioritizing the things that fill your energy bank rather than drain it, really, really useful practice. The problem is that there is so much noise. There is so much coming from the outside telling us, hey, you should be doing it like this. We should be going about it like this. This is the right way to do it. That our own internal signal, our own ability to measure what actually gives us return gets drowned out, and we don't listen to it. And so then we end up just bashing our head against a wall, continually draining our energy bank, and wind up miserable. Sunk cost fallacy is a bitch. Yep, 100%. Yeah, dropping things that don't serve you. Very well said. Very well said. There's a time management guide. 20% of tasks will produce 80% of the result you want. Focus on the 20%. Yep, 100%. Important tasks versus urgent tasks. Ooh, Dad, you're talking about the Eisenhower matrix. So if y'all don't know the Eisenhower matrix, it's a cool way. What are you talking about? Turn on your personalized ads. Go away. Don't give me personalized ads. Eisenhower matrix. Images. If y'all don't know the Eisenhower matrix, it's a cool little thing. I think that, how do I say this? I think that it can be a little oversimplified. Life is not always so ideal, but I think that it's a nice framework to have in your head. So I'll bring it up here. So this is the Eisenhower matrix. Can we see it over here? Let's move this. There we go. Okay. I have to make sure the vertical stream can see it too. So this is the Eisenhower matrix. So you have urgent, not urgent, important, not important. So if it is important and urgent, you do it right now. If it is important but not urgent, you schedule a time to do it. If it is urgent and if it's important and not urgent, you schedule it. If it is urgent and not important, you delegate it to someone else. And then if it is not important and not urgent, you just don't do it because it doesn't matter. And honestly, even though I think that this can be a little, like idealist or whatever, I do think that if more people paid attention to this and like checked in with themselves, asked themselves, like, is this important? Is this urgent? Then it would go a long way. The tricky thing about this is that sometimes figuring out, I guess it's the same issue. It's the same issue, is that sometimes we think things are urgent that aren't, and sometimes we think things are important that aren't. And so it really comes back to it always comes back to listening. It always comes back to and asking yourself questions of like, okay, what is it about this that is actually important to me? So one question that I really like to ask clients that might be helpful for y'all is, if no one could judge you, would this matter to you? How important would this be to you? Enter life coaches. Yeah. If you have a hard time realizing what is urgent and what is important, that is what the Reclamation is for, which is my program that helps people recover from burnout. Sometimes people give in to avoidance because it's easier than facing the harm that they've done. Yes, 100%. Wait, hold on. I have something for this. Yes. Oh man, I don't have it set up on the vertical format. I have Zoom set up on the horizontal format, but I don't have it set up on vertical. Anyway, so yes, 100% that one of the biggest reasons that people get really, really stuck is because they avoid their emotions. Facing whatever it is that they're feeling is so scary that they will do anything but, which is why, these things are so insidious, is because they are such an easy, effortless way to avoid what it is that we're feeling. The zoom is iconic. I was not prepared. Wait, I have something for this. You ready? You ready? Watch this. No! No! It's the wrong thing. Wait, hold on. There we go. There we go. That was it. That was it. Okay. So, I have to catch up with chat. Hold on. I've zeroed in on the phrase, "this doesn't serve me," as like a notifier to myself to keep myself for falling for sunk cost, because sure, at one point it did, but it no longer does. Yeah. And I really like the phrase, "this doesn't serve me," because I place service. I think service is incredibly high value. The idea of service in general, when we devote ourselves to service, I think that it leads to a much more fulfilling life. Because there's a huge difference between service and obligation. Obligation is, I have to do this. This is like a burden that was put on me. Whereas service is, I am doing this out of a sense of duty, out of a sense of this is what I'm here to do. So the example that I often use for this is, obligation is dragging yourself to get out of bed to go to the job that you hate. Whereas duty or service is a mother stepping in front of a car in order to protect her child. Huge difference in terms of the internal experience. Sometimes we do things out of enjoyment that are neither important or urgent, but it's important to leave time for that too. Safe and healthy self-indulgence are an important component of self-care. Yeah, so honestly, I think that I would argue that things like, watching a TV show that brings you a lot of joy is actually very important. Very, very important. So I think that it can still fit into the Eisenhower matrix. It's just that we have to expand our idea of what is important and urgent. I have work to do. I don't have time to feel things. Yeah. That's a great objection. A great objection. I have work to do. I don't have time to feel things. So here's the tricky part about that. So if you feel like you have work to do, you don't have time to feel things. The tricky part about that is that if you do that long enough, so for a little while, that'll work. But if you do that long enough, what's going to happen? And this is actually, it's beautiful, because this is the moment, the Reclamation, the program that helps people recover from burnout, is designed around a single moment, which is the moment that people usually come to me, which is that they have been doing exactly that. They have been doing the work and putting their feelings aside because they don't have time for their feelings. They have work to do. And what eventually happens is that one day you wake up and all of a sudden you can't do it anymore because the backup, it's like a clogged artery. Like you've been eating shit for so long that your blood can no longer pump. And so you end up having a heart attack, metaphorically. Honestly, sometimes literally. So this is what I see all the time in the Reclamation, is that people come to me where all of a sudden they can they wake up one morning and they can't get themselves to get out of bed. They can't get themselves to go to work. And so just like we were talking about how with Fox, how it is vitally important to actually, do things that make you happy, watch the funny TV show, whatever it is. It is also vitally important to feel things in order to get your work done. Because otherwise what ends up happening is that you become so incapacitated that you can't do any work at all. And this is something that I really love. There's a colleague of mine, her name is Sonia. She's a wonderful coach. Highly recommend. If y'all, if I can't work with you because boundaries or whatever. If y'all ever want to check out another coach, I highly recommend Sonia. She's great. And one of her sort of foundational principles is that health is everything. Health is the foundation of everything. If you don't have your health, you don't have anything. And so the number one priority for her is always taking care of her health above anything else. Anything that threatens that is not worthwhile, because you could have all the money in the world, but if you're incapacitated, it doesn't matter. If those don't show up as bloopers, I'm gonna have to riot. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go through this stream and chop it up with all the little clips and things. I feel the phrase "this doesn't serve me" also removes emotion from the matter somewhat, because often we talk ourselves out of discomfort and anger for the sake of the other person, out of sentiment. But being able to step back and realize that you gain nothing from the relationship, no matter how you feel about it, helps to weigh the cost more accurately, if that makes sense. So actually, my perspective is that it just brings another emotion into view. Because yes, like the feeling of somebody else feeling bad because you end a relationship, that's a legitimate emotion. Like you feeling guilty or sad that it's gonna make them sad or hurt them or whatever the case. That's a legitimate emotion. But the other legitimate emotion is like, I feel so incredibly drained. I feel so incredibly tired and exhausted and fatigued by being in this relationship. I feel so like my cup feels empty being in this relationship. And that is also a legitimate emotion. And so by asking, does this serve me? It brings you back into frame. It brings you back into the equation. You can't avoid feeling things forever. Eventually it is going to come out explosively, potentially aimed at someone who doesn't deserve it, 100%. My husband was a hard worker for a decade. He got up to building supervisor at his job by 28, working 70 hours a week, being on call salary. 5 more years later, after trying to maintain a frequently faltering momentum with substance, he burned out. Then he couldn't bring himself to work or do anything for 2 years. Yep. That is the exact journey that I work with people on in the reclamation. 100%. That's it. Okay, so we were talking about the to-do list, and I gave this analogy of like, the 5 $1 bills for the one $20 bill, because it feels more fulfilling. Welcome in, by the way, if you're just coming in. My name's Sean. I'm a burnout coach. I help people recover from burnout. I have done over 7,300 sessions, and today we're talking about themes that I see throughout the week, of like, people that I work with, themes that I see across different clients, to hopefully, like provide you some insight and help and value and all that good stuff. Okay, so let me see here. Oh, okay. So another thing that often happens within this sort of theme is that when you are really good at your job, a lot of times what will end up happening is that you will see things coming and you will try to warn people about it at your work, and they won't listen. And this happens in relationships too. Foxy and I have talked about this, that you will see someone going through something and you will know where it is leading, and you will try to warn them and they won't listen. And that can be so incredibly exhausting. It can be so incredibly demoralizing, because you just have to watch as, the castle, the house, they burn their own house to the ground. And there's a couple of different things about this. The first is the analogy of a parent, which is that when you are a parent, one of the hardest things is letting your kids fail. it is actually very, very important to let your kids fail. Obviously, you want to keep your kids safe and all that good stuff, but you have to let them fail so that they can learn for themselves. So, when they are doing something the wrong way and you know how it's going to end, letting them experience it for themselves so that they can figure it out is actually really, really important. The other part is the attachment that you have to it. So the difference between somebody that can tolerate that sort of thing, the difference between the kind of person that can thrive in that kind of environment versus the person who can't, is their amount of attachment to the outcome. That if you have this prediction of what is going to happen, and if it happens, it will destroy you, then it's going to be real hard to survive in that environment. Whereas if you are able to detach, and that doesn't mean that you don't care, by the way. There's a difference between detachment and not caring. Very different. You can care. You can say like, hey, this is really important. Like this really matters. I want to do everything that I can to like try to prevent this. But it is about being detached from the outcome. That it is like whatever happens, it is going to be okay. And that is ultimately where the security comes from. The knowledge that things are going to be okay. I was watching this TV show. My wife and I have been watching this TV show recently. And there's this guy who is a really funny character. And he has this special talent where he can sit down with somebody and he can put his hand on their shoulder and look them in the eye and say, it's going to be okay. And the reason that he is able to do that is because he has an understanding. He explains this in the show. He has an understanding that being okay doesn't mean that things are going to turn out the way that you want them to. It just means that you're going to be able to navigate it. You're going to be able to get through it. And because he has that security of like, hey, whatever happens, we're going to be able to figure it out. When he says it's going to be okay, people can genuinely feel it. It can feel insulting because it's like, I know what I'm fucking talking about. Why won't you just listen? Right. Yeah. And that's when ego gets involved. It feels disrespectful. It feels like you don't believe that I know what I'm talking about. Do you know who I am? Do you know who I am? I know what I'm talking about. And so when we are in service, shattering our ego, separating out our ego is a hugely important part. Because otherwise, the service ends up becoming ego-based, which then ends up inevitably resulting in burnout anyway. Display your emotions in a safe place so they don't just erupt. You don't have to compartmentalize. You just got to learn where the pressure valve is. Beautifully said. Beautifully said. I use I'm okay to ground myself, like even when I'm heartbroken or incredibly angry or whatever. So like I'm really sad, but I'm okay. And also I'm not okay and that's okay. Yeah, 100%. 100%. I'm really sad and I'm okay. Or I'm not okay and that's okay. Yeah, beautiful. Beautiful. Okay, let's continue going through these. Okay. So another pattern that I see a lot happen within this particular theme is that the scoreboard that you use to measure your achievement is a scoreboard that you don't care about. So the most common place that I see this is in, financial success, where people will try to get the high paying job and the big fancy title and all that sort of thing. But when you get there, it feels empty. It feels hollow because you never actually cared about it in the first place. The reason that you were chasing that was because you thought that it was going to give you the fulfillment that you wanted. And so by starting to prioritize the things that actually matter to you, and here's a really tricky part. When you do that, when you climb Achievement Mountain, your worth starts to get attached to Achievement Mountain, where you feel like you have to achieve or you are worthless. And that is really hard and scary. So by starting to recognize like, oh, yeah, I don't want this if it's empty and hollow. I want to build what is important to me, and that is actually worth way more hard work. The hard work that I put in, brute forcing my way through each and every day, is actually much better spent, doing the hard things that are going to make me feel fulfilled. Yeah, Foxy, there's a Buddhist allegory about the tale of two arrows, which is the idea that you get shot in the knee by one arrow, and then you shoot yourself in the other knee with a second arrow because you got shot in the knee with an arrow. And it's like, you already got shot in the knee with an arrow. Maybe we don't need to shoot ourselves again, but we do it all the time. We do it all the time. One of the best things the therapist ever said to me regarding being my own harshest critic was stop measuring yourself by the standards of people who don't like you. 100%. Yeah. And stop measuring yourself by the standards of people whose lives you don't want. We look at people all the time. We follow advice from people all the time who are living lives that we would not touch with a 10-foot pole. Yeah, cutting off your nose to spite your face, 100%. Okay. We are on to theme number 3, ladies and gentlemen. Honestly, I'm wondering, should we just stop here? We're at about an hour. Should we? And like, I feel like there's lots and lots of stuff to cut up. Maybe we should, because y'all were awesome and we're chatting and I had lots to chat with. So I'm wondering if we shouldn't just stop here. Because we still have themes 3, 4, and 5. We only did themes 1 and 2. Keep going. Okay, all right. I'll keep going. If y'all are invested, I will keep going. Okay, so theme number 3 is moving goalposts. Oh, okay. Wait, hold on. We have dissension amongst the ranks. So on the one hand, we have somebody, we have a person saying good stopping place. On the other hand, we have a person saying keep going. We have to do a poll. We have to type 1 in chat if you want to stop. Type 2 in chat if you want to keep going. And I'll count up. I'll count up the number of votes. Well, right now it's just a tie. So that doesn't help us. We need a tiebreaker. How about here? I'll compromise. How about we do theme 3 and then we stop after that? Is that a fair compromise? I wish I still had my second account. I'm down for that. Okay, we'll do theme 3 and then we'll stop after theme 3. So, theme 3 is moving goalposts. Let me think about how to structure this real quick. Okay.
One of the big reasons that I think moving goalposts happens a lot is because there is a lack of acknowledgement. You fail to reap the fruits of your labor. So one of the things that I see all the time is people will achieve an extraordinary amount. They will do amazing healing in their own internal environment. They come with like huge breakthroughs, and then immediately they are like, what's next? The next thing. And what that results in, imagine if you had a teacher. Imagine if you were trying to learn a skill. Let's say you were trying to learn guitar, for instance. And every time you made a mistake, your teacher called it out and said, no, you have to do it like this. No, you have to fix this. Do this better. Do this better. And every time you got it right, your teacher just moved on to the next thing. Great, you got that. Oh, like they don't even acknowledge that. They just say, okay, but now you need to fix this. Now you need to fix this. Now you need to fix this. How would that make you feel? Right? Right? It would be devastating. Like you would stop going to that teacher because it is so incredibly demoralizing. Stop calling me out. That's my favorite comment. When I get that's the best. That means that I'm doing my job well. When people say stop calling me out. Thank you for that comment. So it is actually very, very important. The idea of like cherishing and savoring. I know that it sounds cheesy, corny, whatever, but it is actually incredibly important that when you do something that I talk about in session with clients is that the victory lap sessions are just as important as the hard work sessions. Because if we don't take the victory lap sessions, then you could work forever and it would never feel like enough because you're just throwing it all away. You're doing all of this amazing stuff and just tossing it over your shoulder. And so you never get a chance to see all of the amazing shit that is just sitting in a trash can behind you. It's actually very, very important when you do something that you acknowledge the shift. So a good example of this is I had a friend who was very, very avoidant. Whenever she would get into relationship, as soon as something went wrong, she would run and find a new relationship. And she started to actually stay in it with a partner. She started to actually like hang in and face the discomfort. And I remember one of the most important moments as she was working through that was we were talking about it and I had to stop her and be like, hey, stop for a second. Do you realize what you have been doing? Do you realize how amazing it is? How amazing what you're doing is? And it wasn't until I did that it hit, that she was like, holy shit, I have been doing really good. Wow. And like, gave herself a pat on the back. And that is so incredibly important. It's so incredibly important to stop and pause in the midst of our work and say, oh, wow, I'm doing a really good job. I will never feel healed enough because I know where I started and I know I could be there again, if that makes sense. Yeah. And I think that something that I have learned personally and also through my work is that future happiness is a mirage. This is why when it comes to the work that I do with people around burnout, I work very hard to steer them away from goals, to steer you away from goals, because goals are born of the ego. When you think, I want to be here, I want to be this ideal version of myself, that is a fabrication. It is your ego comparing. It is saying, I am here and I want to be here. It is a denial of your current self. And if we want to heal, the biggest part of healing is accepting ourselves, is like listening to where we are actually at and meeting ourselves there. That is what allows people to heal. I'm constantly humbled as a coach because I can learn all of these fancy coaching techniques and all these, ideas and philosophies. But what really makes the biggest difference is when I sit down and I fucking listen. When I sit down and I fucking listen to people. That's what makes the difference. And the same thing is true with your relationship with yourself. And so instead of having this like ideal version of yourself that you're constantly chasing, instead it is about action. This is when I do purpose work with people. So the framework that I use within the reclamation to help people recover from burnout is called END, and it's a framework that I developed over 7,300 sessions. So E stands for emotional empowerment. It is about you getting on the same page with your emotions. Most people have an antagonistic relationship with their emotions. They're constantly fighting. They're like dragging their emotions along with them. And it is about helping you form an alliance with your emotions. The N is narrative navigation, which is that throughout our lives, all of these narratives are written for us to help us to survive. But at certain points, those narratives stop serving us. They start hurting us. And so it is about identifying the narratives that are no longer serving us and rewriting those. And then the last one is Dharma design, which is the idea of intentionally crafting a life that is fulfilling for you. And Dharma design, when we are doing purpose work within Dharma design, the way that I phrase it to people is that purpose is an action, not a goal. It is a single unified action that drives all of the different things that you do in your life. Everything falls under that large umbrella action. And by devoting yourself to that action, you find fulfillment. Because action is inherently in the present. You can't take action in the past or in the future. You can only take action now. And so it pulls you out of the ego. It pulls you out of this comparison. I do try to give myself more credit for my growth than I used to, but I'm very hard on myself when I falter. Yeah. And that comes back to a previous theme that we were talking about of the difference between failure and being a failure. And I imagine for you, Foxy, when you fail, you feel like a failure. I want to be healed enough to not even think petty, venomous things. Yeah, that's shadow work, Foxy. You gotta embrace all that petty, venomous shit. This is something that I think a lot of mental health influencers miss is they inadvertently, I think, most people are doing their best. They're trying to help people, but I think that they inadvertently end up causing all sorts of suppression because they say like, no, don't think about yourself that way. Like, it's all meant to be. It's all like part of the process, blah, 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 blah. Everything is positive. But like sometimes shit sucks. And sometimes like you gotta feel some fucking pettiness. Sometimes when, somebody did something fucked up to you and you hear that, something bad happened to them, sometimes you gotta revel in that a little bit. Sometimes you gotta be like, oh, sweet, sweet karma. Thank you. And obviously, like, that doesn't drive our actions, but it makes sense that if somebody hurt us, that there would be a certain amount of pleasure in the revenge. And I think that by acknowledging that shit, it stops owning us. Because when we deny it, when we say, no, I don't want to think that way, I shouldn't think that way, it just gets stronger and stronger. It just builds up. Our emotional system is much like the circulatory system. And if we try to block off a route, it is going to cause problems. It is going to cause clogs. I struggle to not settle the score myself. I hate feeling like someone has one over on me. Yeah. That's all ego stuff, Foxy. All ego stuff. Okay, let me look at this. Okay. I just want to tell you all about something that within this idea of moving the goalposts, something really beautiful that happens in the work, in the reclamation, which is that at a certain point, I see you start to be able to hear your own compass much more clearly than you ever have been able to in the past. And what I mean by compass, you can use whatever word for it you want, whether it is your intuition, your gut, your soul, your compass, whatever you want to call it, your dharma, whatever you want to call it. It is just the things that feel right to you. And what's really interesting about it is that it is so often counterintuitive. People will be fighting tooth and nail against something. And then when they finally hear their compass, it's like, oh no. This is what feels right for me. And there's a serenity. There's a peace in it of like, this is it. And then there is the ability to move forward. And it is so beautiful to witness when people actually get in touch with that. There's always this like deafening silence that comes with it. And like I said, this serenity of just, this is it. This is what I'm supposed to do. Which is very, very different than what you should do. And what's so hard about this is that oftentimes that thing that you are supposed to do is really scary. It's really terrifying. I know that I definitely have faced this in my own life of feeling very in touch with my compass, knowing that this is the right thing, and feeling absolutely fucking terrified. And facing that is so hard. A great reference for this, if you want to see what this is like in sort of a storytelling way, watch Moana. Moana is such a beautiful example of this. That when Moana has to go out on her own to like save her village and face the world by herself, she knows that it is the right thing. She knows that it is what she is supposed to do. But what it requires of her is so hard and scary. It is so fucking heavy. And that the acknowledgement of that and the feeling of that is just it is why I do this work. Being raised by a narcissist is crazy work. It's true. It's true. Okay. Let's see. Ooh, okay, this is a really interesting one. So in the not good enough, moving goalpost feeds into the never good enough conversation. Yes, 100%. So in this idea of never good enough, somewhere that I see this pop up a lot is in trying to build your own thing. Because nowadays, a lot of people are trying to build their own thing. Because I think that there is a recognition by a lot of people that the systems that were built for us are failing us, right? It used to be that you could go to college and you were guaranteed a job that, on a single income could support a family. That is no longer the case today, not by a long shot. And so instead, a lot of people are looking to build their own things. But what comes with that is not feeling good enough, is feeling like you are an imposter. And I think that one of the big reasons that comes up so much is because when you are building your own thing, you have to learn sales. And sales is such the more that I learn about sales, the more important of a concept I think it is. I read a book called Getting Everything You Can Out of All You've Got. And one of the things that he talks about in that book is whether people know it or not, everyone is in sales. Because when you are hunting for a job, that's sales. When you are negotiating for a raise, that's sales. When you're trying to get a promotion, that's sales. Even to a certain extent, like dating is sales. And The association that a lot of people have with sales is that sales is, you know, a car salesman trying to sell you a bad car. You're like trying to trick the person into buying the thing that you want them to buy. And that is unethical sales. That is bad sales. Good sales is very simple. Good sales is helping people. That's what good sales is. Plain and simple. And when you come with that mindset, when you come with the mindset of, I am here to help somebody, I have something to offer that I believe will legitimately help somebody, then why would you not want to help convince them to take that course of action if you legitimately believe that it is going to help them? And then the money becomes this like beautiful sacred thing. The money becomes an exchange of gratitude. The money becomes like, hey, thank you so much for what it is that you are doing for me. Thank you so much for the help that you have provided me. And in like feeling that and cherishing that, it helps to cherish and feel good enough in such a profound, amazing way. But because of the stigma around sales, we end up getting all like squirmy, squirrely, and feeling cringe about offering the real value that we have to people. And honestly, I think that's all for today. I think that's all for today. I think that's the stream. So real quick, just to check in with y'all, how was this for y'all? What did you think? Scale of 1 to 10. 10 being I loved it, I found it really helpful, interesting, etc. 1 being I hated it, please never do this again, please find a different format. What'd you think? And by the way, Dad, is Mom awake? Because if so, it might be nice to chat after this. Such profound lessons. Yay! I'm glad that you liked it, Foxy. Tell your dad I'm proud of him. Done. Done. Y'all are awesome. Oh, that's so sweet. I just like seeing you, you little cutie. Teehee. Wait. Teehee. Okay. I gotta set up my Stream Deck so that I can switch between scenes, so that instead of having to click it on my computer, I can just click it on my Stream Deck. We got Foxy thirsting on main again. All right. I think that's all for me, y'all. Thank you so much for hanging out. I'm glad that she is still sleeping, but we'll reach out when she wakes up. Sounds good. Sounds good. Thanks y'all so much for hanging out, and I'll see y'all. I gotta like cut this up and see how I feel about all the stuff. But hopefully I'll be streaming more. I struggle to go live. But when I do and we get to have cool conversations, it's always nice. All right, I'll see you all around. Goodbye.